On this Thursday night, foul play. The elaborate gambling ring with ties to the NBA and the Mafia.
We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud.
The players involved and the litany of allegations involving special contact lenses and x-rays. Angry Alberta teachers could soon be ordered back to work.
Parents just want their kids back in class.
The frustration and the stalemate. Slow motion getaway, new video of the Louvre thieves apparently making their grand escape. Plus, home run hopes.
I know we represent this entire country.
How the Blue Jays are feeling on the eve of the World Series.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The NBA has been hit by sweeping allegations of illegal sports gambling and rigging of poker games. The FBI says more than 30 people across 11 states have been arrested, including basketball players and a coach, in 2 separate investigations. One, called Operation Royal Flush, involved 4 of New York City's 5 notorious mafia families.
The charges and the arrests that were taken down across this country range from wire fraud, money laundering, extortion, robbery, illegal gambling. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation.
The allegations include NBA players faking injuries to influence the outcome of games, insider betting, and rigged poker games that used special glasses and contact lenses, even an x-ray table used to read cards. Jeff Semple has our top story tonight. Jeff.
Well, Donna, this U.S. indictment reads like a crime thriller. The Toronto Raptors are one of the teams whose games were allegedly targeted by this sports betting conspiracy involving NBA players and coaches, now accused of foul play.
The NBA season got underway this week, the Miami Heat losing their first game, and now one of their players, Terry Rozier. He's sidelined not from an injury, but a criminal indictment.
This is the insider trading saga for the NBA.
U.S. justice officials announced the results of 2 investigations. The first, a sports betting scheme, allegedly involving Rozier and 6 others, accused of using insider knowledge to win bets. Take this game in March 2023. Rozier left early, claiming he was hurt. His associates had allegedly bet more than $200,000 on his under. Secret details about LeBron James's injury were also allegedly sold by his former teammate and coach, Damon Jones. And former Toronto Raptors center, Jontay Porter, was allegedly threatened into providing insider info.
One of the most brazen sports corruption schemes since online sports betting became widely legalized in the United States.
The other investigation involves a nationwide scheme to rig illegal poker games. The 31 defendants include members of the Mafia, as well as NBA Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups. The Portland Trail Blazers head coach allegedly joined underground poker games in the New York area run by the Mafia. Billups would allegedly distract the victim player, while others used a range of sophisticated cheating technologies, including this X-ray card table, a poker chip tray with a hidden camera, and a rigged shuffling machine. Players even allegedly used special contact lenses that could read secret markings on cards.
It seemed like a lot of people were involved in this situation rather than just a one-off event, which is even more worrisome for the NBA.
The accused players' lawyers have denied the allegations, and the NBA has just released a statement saying that it is reviewing the indictments, that Rozier and Billups have been placed on leave, and that, quote, the integrity of the game remains our top priority. Donna?
All right, Jeff Semple in Toronto, thank you. The other big sports story is the anticipation building for the World Series. The first game is tomorrow in Toronto, and today Canada's Prime Minister and Ontario's Premier weighed in with their predictions.
Oh, I'm going to be realistic, so I'll say the Jays in 6. Yeah, I'll say Jays in 6.
Yeah, that's like, yeah. Look, it's going to be. I was going to say I will second that Jays in 6, but it's going to it's going to go deep. It's going to be it's going to be a great series.
Carney was at practice today, but he won't make any of the games because he'll be in Asia talking trade. The players of both teams, though, are all in town and counting down. Eric Sorensen talked to some of them and brings us the buzz a little bit later. Apart from baseball, Carney and Ford were talking nuclear power today. They're spending $3 billion to build 4 small modular reactors, or SMRs, in Ontario. It's one of the projects the federal government has deemed to be in the national interest. Only China and Russia have SMRs operating commercially right now. And as David Akin explains, the hope is that the ones made in Canada will not only create jobs at home, but be sold to other countries.
Canada is kicking in $2 billion. Ontario, $1 billion. Massive sums to develop small modular reactors, or SMRs.
This project will make us the first in the G7 to have an entirely new kind of nuclear reactor.
SMRs can be as small as a school gym. They have new safety systems, and they can be quickly assembled and daisy-chained together to power homes in a new subdivision, replace a coal-fired power plant, power a mine at an off-grid location, or even provide electricity for an industrial region like Alberta's oil sands.
These are major projects.
And they represent the kind of major project Prime Minister Mark Carney has been promising since he took office.
We are laser focused on getting big projects such as the one we're discussing today, we're launching today.
Major projects that can also help make Canada less dependent on the U.S. Indeed, building SMRs in Ontario will involve using BC lumber, Saskatchewan uranium, and Quebec aluminum. Ontario, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick all hope to use these SMRs, and Nova Scotia today signed a deal with Ontario to look at doing the same.
An innovative, clean form of energy that holds great promise for our country. Small modular reactors represent the next generation of nuclear technology.
When we build, we will be our own best customer.
And there is already interest in selling Canadian SMRs in foreign markets, which could help boost Canada's non-U.S. export revenue. The opposition, though, says selling more oil and gas to non-U.S. markets should be the focus of Canada's energy exports.
We're now 7 months into Mark Carney's term. He still won't even tell us if he supports a pipeline to Tidewater.
But whether it's new pipelines or new SMRs, these major projects are going to take years to build, even as manufacturing jobs in Canada are disappearing right now because of Trump's tariffs. Donna.
Okay, David Akin, thank you. The government is moving ahead with long-promised legislation to make bail laws stricter and sentencing laws tougher for repeated violent offenders. The Justice Minister acknowledged a small number of offenders, many of them well known to law enforcement, are moving in and out of the justice system as if it's a revolving door. Jillian Piper explains what's changing and the reaction.
Anthony DeShepper was out on bail when he allegedly fatally shot a mother in Brampton, Ontario earlier this week.
Today is about stronger laws and safer communities.
The Liberal government is now trying to target those types of crimes with new legislation.
We are going to change the criminal law to ensure that the bail system is not viewed as some get-out-of-jail-free card.
Those changes would introduce consecutive sentences for violent and repeat offenders, as well as impose a reverse onus on bail for some serious offenses, including auto thefts, some sexual assaults, and home invasions.
Bail reform is something we've been pushing, not only the RCMP, but the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police. We're really happy with the directions taken.
The government committed to hiring 1,000 new RCMP officers to help enforce these changes, but the Justice Minister acknowledged that there is not enough data to know whether the measures will actually make Canadians any safer.
The provinces need to collect data about what kind of offences are going through the bail system and are actually leading to a bail decision in one direction or another.
Some of those familiar with the legal system are not fully convinced this will deter crime and say Canada is already incarcerating more people than last year.
It is not that it is a catch and release situation and everybody's running around on bail. In fact, many people are denied bail that eventually later end up being found not guilty.
The $50 million question is, are we going to see an impact on the streets because of this legislation? And I would have to say it's a resounding no.
But Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says the proposed bail reform does not go far enough.
Get rid of the principle of restraint so that if you are a rampant offender and you're newly arrested, it should be presumed that you're automatically staying behind bars.
Many jails are already at capacity, and court backlogs mean it can take months before cases are heard, Donna. But the Justice Minister did not announce new measures to address those problems.
Okay, Jillian Piper, thank you. Teachers in Alberta have been on strike for almost 4 weeks now, and the Premier says she is going to put an end to it. Danielle Smith intends to order the teachers back to work. Thousands of them gathered in Edmonton as the government opened the fall legislative session. Heather Yourex-West is in the provincial capital. Heather.
Donna, the Premier says back-to-work legislation will be introduced next week. The nearly month-long strike has been hard on parents, students, and teachers. But to the teachers gathered here, the prospect of being forced back to work is deeply disappointing.
Have your tickets been scanned?
Wearing red with painted signs, teachers from across the province boarded Edmonton-bound buses Thursday morning, anxious to make their voices heard.
Well, my classroom conditions are just like every other teacher's classroom conditions, over full with 30 plus students per class.
Just take care of kids, take care of the class sizes. You know, it's worse than they're pretending it is.
51,000 teachers in Alberta's public, Catholic and Francophone school systems have been off the job since October 6th, looking for better wages, smaller class sizes, and more support for students with complex needs. The Premier says unless the union agrees to have teachers return to class next week and begin enhanced mediation talks, back-to-work legislation will be introduced Monday.
They've got 72 hours to come in and find a different way to get the kids back in class and work with us on enhanced mediation. And barring that, this is kind of the last resort.
Single mom Sunny Petrakis says while she supports teachers, she'd welcome anything, including back-to-work legislation, if it would see schools open next week.
All I can hear from everyone is that parents just want their kids back in class. Whether it's, one person needs to negotiate more than the other is irrelevant at this point for me. I just want my kid back in school.
Teachers say they're anxious to go back to work too, but not if classroom conditions aren't set to change.
Because then all of this was for what? And I feel that a lot of people also feel that they've had lots of opportunities to come back and bargain in good faith, and they just have not done that. And so it's very frustrating, I think, for all of us.
The Alberta Teachers Association says if a back-to-work legislation is tabled next week, it will consider all of its legal options in response. But judging from the size of this crowd and the emotions on display, the anger and frustration of teachers isn't something that can be legislated away. Donna?
All right, Heather Yourex-West in Edmonton. Thanks. The Canada Industrial Relations Board has ruled Ottawa was within its authority to force postal employees back to work last year. The board rejected a challenge from the Postal Workers Union. It found the federal government did not violate their right to strike under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms when it directed the board to impose the back-to-work order in December of 2024. The two sides still have not reached a contract, and workers are now participating in rotating strikes. Trying to hit Russia where it hurts. Coming up, what Ukraine is urging the EU to do. At least 12 people have been killed in a blast at a military plant in Russia. Witnesses say they heard a huge explosion and saw a fireball light up the night sky. 19 people were injured and 10 are still unaccounted for. A criminal investigation has been opened. Russian officials say the blast was not linked to a drone attack. The Trump administration now claims a meeting between the American president and the Russian president is not off the table. The White House says there are high hopes it will still happen, but there needs to be what they describe as a tangible positive outcome to end the war in Ukraine. The U.S. imposed sanctions on two major Russian oil companies, but as Redmond Shannon reports, Vladimir Putin insists he will not bow to pressure.
A hopeful-sounding Volodymyr Zelensky back at the European Union.
We waited for this. God bless, it will work.
Ukraine's president praising the 19th round of EU sanctions on Russia and the very first such move from the Trump administration. The US targeting Russia's two biggest oil companies Wednesday, with oil prices jumping in response on Thursday. Russian President Vladimir Putin insisted the sanctions wouldn't significantly hurt his economy, but Reuters news agency is reporting that his key oil buyers of China and India are now cutting back or suspending imports from Russia. In Brussels, Zelensky urged European leaders to take a further leap and effectively seize more than $2 billion Canadian in already frozen Russian assets.
They're afraid very much that Europe will make this union decision.
The Kremlin calls the plan robbery and outright fraud. Under normal circumstances, it is technically illegal.
So now they're coming up with a very complex exercise, legal exercise, where these assets are sort of used as a guarantee, but not even.
This economist says Europe would essentially be betting that Russia one day loses the war and pays Ukraine reparations. Otherwise, European taxpayers will foot the bill.
So we must be careful that this does not backfire.
Following concerns raised by Belgium, which holds most of the money, a decision has been delayed until December. Zelensky is here in London on Friday for a meeting with Ukraine's closest allies. The so-called coalition of the willing includes European countries and Canada, but not the US, which had been playing a more neutral role since Trump's inauguration. That was until this week. Donna?
All right, Redmond Shannon in London, thank you. The White House is sharply criticizing a vote in Israel's parliament to annex the occupied West Bank.
If it was a political stunt, it was a very stupid political stunt, and I personally take some insult to it. The policy of the Trump administration is that the West Bank will not be annexed by Israel. That will continue to be our policy, and if people want to take symbolic votes, they can do that, but we certainly weren't happy about it.
Two bills won preliminary approval in Israel's parliament last night. They would apply Israeli law to the West Bank, a move widely seen as annexation. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu disavowed the measure, calling it a political provocation and ordering it put on hold. The U.S. Secretary of State, who arrived in Israel today, said annexation would be counterproductive and could jeopardize the fragile Gaza ceasefire. The American president has pardoned a convicted cryptocurrency mogul. The founder of the world's largest crypto exchange platform, Binance, spent 4 months in prison last year after pleading guilty in 2023 to violating U.S. money laundering laws. He was also ordered to step down as CEO as part of a multi-billion-dollar settlement. His pardon paves the way for him to return to the company. The Wall Street Journal has reported the Trump family's own crypto company, which has generated more than $4 billion since the 2024 election, has been helped by a partnership with an under-the-radar trading platform quietly administered by Binance. Fleeing the scene ahead, what a video reveals about the Louvre heist. This is kind of creepy. This is tens of millions of crustaceans on their annual migration on Christmas Island. Every year, the crabs turn the island into a sea of red as they emerge from forests and make their way to the ocean to breed. The migration will culminate in 2 major spawning events before baby crabs return to shore in the new year. Yeesh. New video has emerged that appears to show thieves leaving the Louvre Museum in Paris after they stole the crown jewels on Sunday. French officials say they are aware of this video. It shows 2 people descending a motorized ladder, then appearing to get on motorbikes. Investigators believe 4 people were involved in the heist and say they found traces of DNA samples on a helmet and gloves left behind, but they haven't found the thieves. The 8 pieces of jewelry stolen are valued at over $100 million U.S. King Charles and Queen Camilla visited the Sistine Chapel at the Vatican today. They met with Pope Leo and took part in an historic moment. For the first time in 500 years, the king joined the pontiff in prayer, a major symbolic gesture centuries after King Henry VIII broke off from the Roman Catholic Church for refusing to annul his marriage. That led to the formation of the Church of England. Flying high, the Toronto Blue Jays set the stakes for their showdown with Ohtani and the Dodgers. Next. Today was Media Day ahead of Game 1 of the much-anticipated World Series. With Shohei Ohtani and the LA Dodgers in town, the sporting world's attention is now squarely focused on Toronto. Our Eric Sorensen was inside the stadium as the boys in blue took to the field for practice.
The Toronto Blue Jays are ready and waiting for Game 1 of the World Series against the iconic Los Angeles Dodgers, who've arrived in Toronto for Media Day, a team that has been to 23 World Series, 5 in the last 9 years. Are the Jays intimidated?
No, God no. They have the best players in the world. but we got some pretty darn good players as well. So we're just going to play our game and enjoy it.
The series also features two global superstars, Shohei Ohtani and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Vladdy says the World Series isn't about the two of them.
It's Dodger against the Blue Jays. Now Ohtani against Vladdy. It's a team against team.
It is the first World Series on Canadian soil in 32 years, a cross-border matchup in a year when Canadians are feeling especially patriotic. The players are aware of that.
I think it's really cool to have, Canada versus LA, such two supermarkets going at it.
The starting pitcher for the Jays is Trey Yesavage, who's had a phenomenal season from deep in the minor leagues to starting Game 1 of the World Series.
I try to treat it as if it's not as high pressure as it is mentally, but I know it's there. I know we represent this entire country, and we're this country's team. So we want to go out there and do everything we can to make this country proud of us.
The Blue Jays have home field advantage because they had a better regular season record than the Dodgers. So if you're planning, all the games are at 8 p.m. Eastern. The first two in Toronto, Friday night and Saturday night. The next three in Los Angeles, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And if necessary, they'll be back here in Toronto next Friday and Saturday, potentially November baseball in Canada for the first time ever if it goes 7 games. How is the Jays' first-time World Series manager approaching the powerful Dodgers?
The one thing we cannot do is look over there and say that is Goliath. That is a beatable baseball team that has its flaws and that has its really, really good strengths.
Some 6 million Canadian viewers, a record, watched the Jays on Sportsnet in the American League Championship finale. Expect more records for the World Series. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Can't wait. That is Global National for this Thursday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Harrison Lake, BC, Lake Huron from Southampton, Ontario, and Chance Cove, Newfoundland and Labrador. Please keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Jeff Semple will be at the anchor desk tomorrow. Bye-bye.